Night 1. Dark mode activated.
An alarm sounded in Calliope's head. She opened her eyes abruptly. Her vision had a bright green hue. She stood as she realized the lights were out. She glanced up to the balcony and was relieved to see Moondrop's light still on. But she could hear his panicked cries. A night shift security guard entered into the area and upon seeing her asked,
Wait, are you Calliope?
Something in Calliope informed her that she wasn't. No. She responded in a much more modular voice than she was used to.
Who are you?
Calliope asked the new entity who had control of her body. I am Psalm. Her mouth moved in response. Do you need assistance?
Yeah, we have to get the lights back on in here before Moondrop makes an appearance.
The human said. Excellent. How may I help? The light seemed to flicker in Moondrop's room briefly. The security guard let out a concerned groan.
I guess just keep an eye on him.
The personnel took off running towards another exit.
Lights on!
Moondrop screamed.
Lights on!
Psalm acrobatically jumped and flipped up to his balcony to keep watch. As she landed, she opened a panel on her chest that radiated light. Moondrop looked at her stunned.
Calliope?
Yes.
The voice in her head responded soothingly. No, I am Psalm, she informed the frightened daycare attendant.
You're who?
He asked, but then broke off in a scream as his room's lights went out. His eyes flickered red, and his sunbeams trembled before he hugged her waist tightly to stay in the glow she provided. Psalm said nothing, and did nothing.
Oh. Hug him back.
Calliope pleaded with Psalm. It's not my job to coddle, Psalm replied coldly.
Please.
Calliope asked again. Psalm sighed and wrapped one half-hearted arm around Moondrop's shoulders. They stayed that way for a few minutes until the lights came back on. Psalm's chest closed, as did her eyes, and, had it not been for Moondrop still holding her, she may have plummeted off the railing into the ball pit below.
Calliope switched back to the front. She hugged him tightly until he separated from her.
What was that?
Moondrop asked her, confused. I'm not sure, she replied, equally confused. The security guard had returned to the daycare.
Sonny?
Here, friend.
Moondrop stepped up to the railing and waved happily down to the human.
Oh, good.
The watchman said in relief, with an answering wave.
And Calliope?
Calliope swung her legs over the railing to face her new friend. I'm here.
All right, I think I fixed the problem, but just to be safe, you two may want to stick close to each other. We don't need a Moondrop incident.
Of course.
Moondrop responded a little warily. Can you tell Sammy to come visit us before the daycare opens tomorrow? Calliope asked with a sweet chime. She kicked her leg back and forth with a big grin on her face.
Will do, Calliope, and good work.
Thank you. Calliope waved goodbye. Moondrop waved with her, but once the human was gone, he looked at her shakily.
You're a lot calmer than I was when... Never mind. Can you talk to Psalm? We used to be able to talk.
Let me check. Calliope went silent, except for a ringing noise in her head that was audible from the outside as well. Psalm? No reply came. Calliope grimaced and shook her head. Nope.
That's a bad sign, Calliope.
Moondrop said, shaking her composed frame. His panic almost threw them both over the edge of the balcony, but Calliope wrapped her own hands around Moondrop's upper arms. Shh. Calm down, Moondrop. I could talk to her when she was active. Maybe she's just not much of a talker.
You don't understand.
Moondrop clawed at his beams.
That was the first sign that we were broken. He wouldn't talk to me anymore.
Moondrop. Calliope grasped him around the red ribbon and bells which covered his wrists. He looked at her hysterically. "Breathe," she instructed him. It was a silly thing to say since neither of them really had lungs. But he stared at her and seemed to grow still. "Okay?" Calliope carefully let go of him.
I'm scared.
Moondrop admitted. "I know, but did you see me go after our friend?"
No.
He admitted. "Sam isn't like—" She stopped. Moondrop faced the floor. "It's okay, he isn't you. You're okay. And apparently I have a built-in light box to keep you that way." Moondrop smiled half-heartedly.
That's true. Thank you for that, by the way.
"You should really thank Sam," Calliope said, suddenly feeling just a bit of the discomfort and uncertainty Moondrop had likely felt moments earlier. "What else do you know how to do that I don't?" she asked Sam. There was still no answer. Calliope sighed.
I heard the music box a couple of times today. And last night.
Moondrop changed the subject.
Did you fix it?
"I did," Calliope said, happily dropping the matter for the time being.
So, you saw that the wheel can be transferred?
Calliope nodded and waited for Moondrop to continue.
Would you play this one for me?
He handed Calliope a metal cylinder with little bumps along it.
I haven't heard it in a long time.
"Sure." Calliope looked around the small room. "Which way to the stairs?"
Oh, here, just use this.
Moondrop said, handing her the cable from yesterday. She took it hesitantly. "Are you sure?" A light seemed to glow around the edges of his white and gold face as he responded shyly.
Yeah, I've never been good at it. And maybe it's time to.
Moondrop's eyes fell to the Moondrop plushie.
Distance myself.
Calliope frowned and gently touched one of his sharp beams with the tips of her fingers. "If that's what you want. But don't force yourself to move on too soon." Moondrop gave her a genuine smile before pulling away from her hand as if embarrassed.
Let's go.
He vaulted over the railing with a jingle. Calliope watched him jump and was again impressed by his grace and elegance. He moved like a dancer. "I'd like to dance with him," Calliope thought silently.
Then do it.
Suggested Sam. Calliope was taken aback. "Now you talk back. Why on earth now?"
Maybe it's because I know he could use someone like you in his life.
Sam said quietly.
He's an anxious mess. Maybe you can fix him.
"What's your primary function, Sam?" Calliope asked suddenly. Sam fell silent once more. Calliope stomped a foot in frustration, but clipped herself onto the cable and spun her way to the floor. Moondrop watched her in awe as she landed.
I'm impressed.
He said as she freed herself.
You're a natural.
"Well, I am programmed in all forms of musical expression, dance included." She blushed and looked away from Moondrop to switch the music box's wheel. To her surprise, Moondrop was very close to her face when she had finished her task. "Sundot?" She started a little concerned.
Wowie, you can blush?
Moondrop asked, placing his hands on her pink cheeks. Though, to be fair, because one was black, it had more of a red hue. Calliope blushed deeper.
That's adorable!
He exclaimed with little white hearts in his blue eyes. Calliope laughed a little and pushed his hands away. She wound up the box and stepped back. The melody was in a minor key, which lent a haunting quality to it. The tune was beautiful all the same, but as Calliope searched her internal database for its title, she grimaced. It appeared to be called Moondrop's Sonata. It had some similarities to Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, but it was distinct. Calliope looked at Moondrop, who now sat on the floor. His eyes were closed as he listened to it, and his head shape seemed to alter slightly, only half of his beams still protruding. Psalm seemed alarmed by the change and said,
"Turn it off."
Calliope saw something different than Psalm did. Moondrop seemed more at peace than she had ever seen him before. No, that's not a threatening change,
I said turn it off.
Psalm warned. Instead of listening to her overprotective half, she went over to Moondrop and tapped his shoulder. His beams encircled his whole head again. Moondrop,
Call me son.
Moondrop offered her kindly. She blushed again, which Sun was very amused by. Son, will you dance with me? Calliope asked. He jumped to his feet instantly.
I'd love to, but I'm nowhere close to as well taught as you.
That's okay, Calliope said. I'll teach you. Sun offered her his hands. She took them and placed one hand on her waist just above her skirt and linked her fingers through the other. She then placed her other hand on the red and yellow striped collar he wore. Her own collar had the same collars but inverted. Sun wasn't as bad at dancing as he claimed, but Calliope kept her word and guided him through some different movements. He picked them up quickly. They danced for about 5 minutes before the music box fell silent. They didn't seem to notice at first, despite the fact that they had frozen in place. Sun touched her rosy cheeks again before pulling away.
We should charge. The children will be arriving before we know it.
Of course, Calliope said and headed to her charging zone. Sun was about to head to his own, but Calliope took his hand to stop him. We're supposed to stay close, remember? Just share my charger. Sun nodded and sat by her side. She closed her eyes until she felt something heavy fall into her lap. She peeked through her eyelashes and saw that Sun's head had fallen into it. If she had been human, she may have been impaled accidentally, but she wasn't, so she simply smiled. She folded her arms and laid her head back.